brothers and sisters of the light. Blessed are you amongst WoW players. I do apologize for the tardiness of this video, but the light did call me. For I have braved both dangerous dungeons and bloody arenas in service to our holy order. And after many trials and tribulations, I can confidently report back to you, my dear Oklahoma gang, that our beloved holy specialization blows ass right now. Let's just cut the music and the crap, all right? Because we got problems, family. That's what it is. Now, before I get started going here, you'll see I've been getting it. We got these 8s across the board here. I'll probably push these up to 10, but I don't know. Because to be quite honest with you, it's really, especially as you get higher up here, the Holy Paladin just doesn't feel really great right now. We'll get into that in a second, but I want to show you that I'm actually someone who plays the game. And by the way, these are all pugs. Okay, this isn't some dedicated group of guys where we're communicating in Discord. I'm doing it the way that you do it. Now, over on the PvP side, where are we at? We're up to 2037 in solo. I keep capping my weekly vault. You can see here, this is what my vault looked like. I haven't gotten over to it yet to see what's in there. Hopefully some good stuff, but we'll see. I pride myself on doing content the way that you guys do it. I don't want some special group or a special Discord. Okay, I just want to hop in there and play with the community that I love. So after spending some time playing both PvE and PvP, I can just tell you that Holy Paladin feels awful right now in a lot of ways. I mean, it's very bad in a host of ways. The first one, and probably the one that stands out to me the most, is just that the buttons feel awful to push. I mean, you push Holy Shock, right? Let me go ahead and daybreak so I can just get an infusion of light proc. Okay, so if my Holy Shock crits, I get this infusion of light proc. And what do I get for that? I get a free 100% mana free flash of light, or I can get a little bit extra holy power if I cast this 2.2 second holy light cast, which is an eternity with the amount of damage going out. And we'll get to holy power and how disappointing it is too, but we'll stay here for a second. Even if you push something like Divine Toll, it really doesn't heal for a lot. Now, if you Divine Toll and then you daybreak and pull those glimmers off, or you Divine Toll into a Beacon of Virtue, then it's a lot of healing. But we have 55 different cooldowns, and none of them feel good to push unless you bake a cooldown cake and you stack them all together and blend them together. Tears is another great example here, where if I really want to get the most out of Tears, I have to cast Tears Deliverance, then I need to cast Hand of Divinity, and if I need a ton of AoE healing, I also have to cast Beacon of Virtue. So 1, 2, 3 cooldowns I've got to put together, and now I can throw all that love out and heal for a bunch. Okay, but other classes don't have to activate 3 abilities to get up and rolling. They can just hit one button and there's a bunch of healing that goes out. Which is why when you look at higher level keys now, it's all Resto, Druid, and Preservation Evokers. Because those classes are streamlined into actually healing. And when you hit your buttons on a Holy Paladin, it doesn't feel that great. It just doesn't. And I'm not saying that some of these aren't powerful, but even something like Beacon of Virtue, you hit that, you hit your Divine Toll, and then you daybreak and pull those glimmers off, and then you start pumping those healing. That's a ton of healing, right? But the problem is there, first off, if it's gone and this is on cooldown, you have 0 ability to effectively AoE heal. Because even something like the healing from Holy Prism, if you shoot out a Holy Prism by itself and the healing it does is really unimpressive. I mean, if it crits, it's okay, but it doesn't feel powerful to hit. It just doesn't. And the Holy Shocks into infusion procs is just stupid because Holy Shock doesn't heal for a lot and the infusions are just so disappointing. Like I said, you get a free flash of light. If you decide to go ahead and use it on a Holy Light, you'll get 3 Holy Power, fine. But the problem is that coming into my second point, spending Holy Power sucks. All right. I mean, what we can do with our Holy Power, I can either cast Word of Glory, right? Or, let's get some more here. I can cast Light of Dawn, which let's just discuss these two right away. First off, Word of Glory is your Mythic Plus and PvP ability, and Light of Dawn is your raid ability. And it's not to say that you can't use these in either, but you just won't. I've probably hit this Light of Dawn ability 3 or 4 times in all my Mythic Plus runs. It does absolutely no healing. Unless you hit 5 people with it, it's really not worth it at all. And even then, it's completely unimpressive. And Word of Glory, honestly, this is such a boring and just punk-ass spender. It's just awful. I mean, 54k, and yeah, if it crits, it does good heal. It can get some health up, but the fact that it cost Holy Power, look down there, Holy Power and mana. And the reason they did that, they said, was because it wasn't fair for Paladins. It would be unbalanced if Paladins didn't also have to pay mana. So we have to generate Holy Power and spend mana on this. Oh, and by the way, here's Mystical's post on Twitter. Mystical the Monk, great guy to follow if you want to keep up with the PvP side of things. Here's his post on the specs that were played in the recent AWC Cup. Since Blizzard is so concerned about balance and they had to nerf us into the ground because of balance, here's the balance currently amongst top-rated players. And of course, it goes without saying that, yes, you can get most classes to 1800 in solo shuffle, but most certainly you can look at this and realize that there is no such thing as good balance. And so when you come into this argument where Word of Glory has to cost mana for balance, LOL. You can go look at the top Mythic Plus keys right now, and you're going to see there is absolutely no balance. Shadow Priest, Fire Mages, Resto Druids, Vengeance, DH, all the way. Blizzard doesn't care enough about this game to stick with it and make it good. What they care about now is generating content to keep people going, to keep your sub up. But they do not care about the quality of the game or the communities within their game at all. They do not care about the balance because they dedicate absolutely no effort to making it better. Season after season, there are gross outliers and they do nothing except for every once in a while, they'll come in with a complete heavy hand and nuke a class down to oblivion like they've done to Holy Paladin. When you consider the cooldown ladder that you've got to scale up to as a Holy Paladin and line up your passives and procs and get your glimmers and all this other bullshit where other classes just can hit a button and send a health bar up, it's ridiculous. Word of Glory is a Holy Power and mana costing spell that just is an insta-cast heal. Like it's not even that impressive of a heal unless it crits, which could be said for most heals. And then it's just boring. It's just so fucking boring of an ability. And then Shield of the Righteous, fine. I guess it just spamming it over and over. But generating Holy Power is boring because there's nothing cool you can do with it. You get an insta-cast shitty heal, or you can smack people with your shield. And to be honest, the damage isn't that impressive. And yes, if you come into the talent tree and you grab Shining Righteousness, which I do in my Mythic Plus build here. Oh, I'm in combat. I can't change it. But it gives it a little bit more. And look, even if in the passive here, if you hit your Shield of the Righteous 5 times, you get a free Word of Glory. I mean, even in that interaction, it's just lame. It's just lame. Generating free Word of Glories when Word of Glories are lame doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't feel good. The damage models in Mythic Plus are such that it's just out either completely feast or famine. Either you're chilling and everything's cool, or there's just crazy damage going out. And here's a thread that I found on the WoW subreddit that is just too good. Too good. And look, the Season 4 Mythic Plus experience, everybody's smiling but the healer. The healer's dead. This is so good. And just the responses in here, gotta love this community. But this comment right here by I Over What, this is it. This is the perfect description of healing a Mythic Plus, especially that Puglife. On top of just the amount of DPS players that refuse to hit their cooldowns, even when the boss is telegraphing, I'm about to put out a bunch of bad shit. I mean, I have cooldown tracker for Arena and it works in dungeons too. And you can just watch. You can just watch a massive AoE ability go off and none of your DPS will pump their defensive that's on like a 45-second cooldown. It's insane how often and consistent that is. And, one of the complaints is that the higher the keys get up, the better the DPS are. And that tends to be true. And it makes the 8s easier than the 5s and 6s, honestly. It's kind of wild. I mean, the amount of Ret Paladins I've seen die at 20% health, and then they get nuked by an AoE ability that's been being telegraphed 5 or 6 seconds, and they still have Lay on Hands and Bubble. I've seen that happen over a dozen times. It's just insane to me. And the only punishment that happens in a Mythic Plus dungeon is more damage. Shit gets blown up or one shot. Okay, there's no reduction in DPS damage. There's no the DPS gets stunned that they can't get out of. The only person taking consistent punishment in a dungeon is the healer for everyone's mistakes. And because high-level players know to hit their defensives, then when they ratchet these things up, they do it with those players in mind. But your average player doesn't do that. And so for the casual people, it's a catastrophe. While for the high Mythic Plus people and the people in like Discord groups and with running very coordinated groups, they're like, yeah, it's not that bad until you get up to, 15s or 16s. And that's true for them. That would be very true if you had competent DPS. But if you don't, it's just agony. And then you couple that frustration and you come into a class that really struggles to push health bars up unless you're activating cooldowns in bunches, and it just feels awful. You know what I would like? I would like when I holy shock someone for their health bar to move. That's what I would like. It would be a miracle to see it move. I've holy shocked someone and flash of lighted them, and it's barely moved their health bar. So overall, I'd say my Mythic Plus experience was all right. I mean, I had some fun times. I had some stressful times, but that can be said for any gaming experience. But I just feel like the Paladin kit feels awful. You're picking and choosing, and you're constantly shuffling between all of these cooldowns, and none of them really feel great. And there's certain bosses, like the third boss in Halls of Infusion, that frozen bitch with the AO. God, she's a nightmare on a Paladin. And then you go watch a druid play it, and it's just a whole nother experience. Crazy. And the big problem is that I can't just hit Divine Toll and fill everybody up. I have to throw it into a beacon, and then this has got to be off cooldown, and this has got to be off cooldown. And then after those two are bad, I got to find another cooldown to use, or use one that's not maybe as optimal, but it's something. It's just insane. It's just insane that I'm having to play this cooldown mini game on top of all this other shit and swirls and damage and people. It's too much. And people just won't do it. That's the thing. I always say this about WoW. WoW is carried by a bunch of people that aren't not going to play it. Okay, it has a very core community both in the Mythic Plus and the PvP side. And these guys just play WoW for a living. And you have content creators that they only play WoW. So it doesn't matter what WoW does, they're going to play it. But if you're wanting to bring in new players so that your communities don't die off over time, then this stuff has got to be considered. Because I'd have a hard time convincing a person. I mean, there's just too many other games that you can go have a lot less stressful of a time and have fun than this. And then over in the PvP community, we're at a place where the plate-wearing, shield-carrying Warrior of Light is the squishiest healer in the game and is basically the plaything for everyone with spammable CC like a druid or anyone with a purge, because we have absolutely zero purge protection, which means when I see my buddy that's in trouble and I hit Blessing of Protection, all it takes is for one shaman, priest, demon hunter, any of them to hit their Arena 1, 2, 3 macro, which they can spam, and they'll strip that right off of them and basically remove all the benefit. I think they still get a 15% damage reduction through talents, but they basically completely negate a 5-minute cooldown with a spammable ability they have macroed to just immediately strip it off as soon as their Gladiator Losa tells them, Blessing of Protection, purge, 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 with their weak aura or whatever the fuck they've got set up. Okay, so it completely negates a massive cooldown you have. On top of that, instead of getting spell warding, which would turn this into, instead of stopping physical damage, stopping magical damage, and allowing us to choose between those two, they gave it to the other Paladin specializations, which already have plenty of defensives. But thematically, spell warding should have been a holy pally talent that we had to pick between either protection or spell warding, because what happens now is if we're in a lobby where it's a ret paladin and 3 casters, this Blessing of Protection does absolutely nothing for you. It does absolutely nothing for you. And so you have a 5-minute cooldown that does nothing. Now, it's still super powerful into hunters, ferals, warriors, things like that. I'm not saying Bop isn't a great cooldown, but with the amount of purge out there, it really gets limited use. And don't forget, priests can master spell our bubble as well. And you can go look at all the top PvPers, Venruki, Absturge, Sea-Doo, all of them will tell you Holy Paladin sucks right now. It's squishy, it's completely vulnerable to purging, and it's awful. It's awful. And also all those PvE problems where your button's not feeling really good to push, your holy power not feeling great to spend, all that applies in PvP too. And I still kick ass and have some fun on my Holy Paladin, but this is the worst version of Holy Paladin that's been out in a long time. And there will be those who respond with, well, there's still people getting to high level with it, and that is true. But those people are doing 2 things. Number one, on the PvE side, they typically have a coordinated group they play with. And most of them will tell you that there are other healers that are better than them for that, right? They just choose to play that. And thirdly, and this is the most important, they spend a lot of time playing the game. The amount of time these content creators put in, and I'm one of them, just to get these videos out and play and all this, it's a lot of time. And I don't think most people are going to dedicate the amount of time that I've played this season based off the experience I had. I think there's a lot of people that once they got about halfway through would have been like, you know what, I'm good, I'll just go play something else. Either play a class that's easier to heal on, or just go play another game. And same with PvP. There's guys that can get to very high level rating, but a lot of those guys have been gladiators and top level players for years and years and years. But if you're just coming in and you're starting out and you pick a paladin, you are going to be hurting for certain. Because you got to learn how to use all these cooldowns that are rather disappointing, most of them, and then they're going to get purged, or your bubble's going to get purged, and it's just crazy. And there's no counter to it at all. It's just amazing to me, as someone who's played this class since Legion, how awful it feels to play in every aspect of the game right now. And yes, it's viable, and you can still get, to plus 10 or 1800 on any class. I still believe that, but you're going to have to work a lot harder on some than others. And right now, it's not just that it's not viable, it's that it's really not fun. It doesn't feel good. And there's just too much shit that's not even that fun to use. And I mean, we're still at this point where we have this caster versus melee healer debate. Well, which are we? And then we're going to get the WoW apologists that are going to come in and say, well, just wait till War Within. They've addressed a lot of these issues. And I thought so too, right? I thought that, hey, because they admitted that Holy Shock wasn't that great, and they were going to nerf down the beacon healing a little bit and bring up Holy Shock through this and Light of the Martyr and buff up Tears. Not a big fan of that one, but it is what it is. It is a powerful cooldown, which fine, you're going to make us a cooldown class. I'm adaptable. Okay. But now, when I was talking about all those talent changes and everything, it sounded like they had a good understanding of what was going to go on, but we'd have to wait to see how it actually played out. Well, guess what? There's people playing it out right now. And this is my handsome Jack. And he did a whole video on Holy Paladin. And guess what he's going to tell you? He's going to tell you that Holy Paladin in War Within feels exactly like all the problems I'm telling you it has currently. Except for, look, you get the little octopus tentacles now. That's your sunbeams going out. You get to be a holy octopus when you pop your cooldown and hurt stuff with your holy tentacles. I don't know why we got away from the fantasy. You know what I want to be? I want to be a plate-wearing, hammer-wielding badass that's smashing stuff with my boys and then throwing out powerful heals and powerful cooldowns when needed. That's the fantasy for me. I don't know when we turned into this hot, spreading, extending, glimmering, passive, infusioned spec. I just wanted to, I don't know. But it does not feel good to play in any content right now. And I'll be honest with you, I was one of the people who's like, well, hey, it looks like they've at least identified, and they did. They stated that they recognize some of the problems. But honestly, you'll hear, and he'll tell you, and I'll leave the video down in the description. Give my boy a like and a sub because he's just a king. So handsome, my Jackie. It's making me feel better already. He'll tell you it's a bloated mess and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to hit the abilities. And this is in the War Within Alpha. And here we go. We're headed into the War Within here in a few months. You think they're going to scrap all this and redo it? No, they are not. So this is Holy Paladin now. And it's just wildly depressing. All we can really do at this point is hope that Blizzard will address some of these issues. But I'm serious when I say we need a rework again, and we need it now. Everything from our abilities not feeling good to use, our holy power not feeling great to use, being squishy, and our no dispel protection in PvP. It just in every type of content you can do on your Holy Paladin, it feels very weak, bloated, and just so far removed from that plate-wearing, hammer-wielding badass with powerful heals and cooldowns to help protect your allies. And now we're just this passive proc infusion generating. It's just so sad. It's really not great. And it's about the worst it's ever been. I'm a Holy Paladin at heart. What am I going to do? I'm definitely not going to go play another class. They'll just ruin that one. I wouldn't do that to someone. First, they took my ranged survival hunter from me, and now they've butchered my paladin. I can't go to another class because they'll butcher that one too, and I can't do that to people. I care about y'all too much. So I'll just stay here, but it's tough going for the Holy Order right now. Maybe Blizzard will address some of this, but they seem a lot more interested in Plunderstorm and new game modes with Warcraft foil bags and shit. Hopefully, a lot of these problems will get addressed. I plan to be very vocal on the forums to get some of this addressed because it's a beautiful class. It has an awesome theme. and they have just completely gotten away from it, in my opinion. Chins up, family. We've gone through hard times before. Hopefully there's brighter days ahead, but they're going to be a little ways down the road. Until then, whatever storms may come, we weather them together. Bokelholm out.